Here's Newt Gingrich yesterday analyzing and commenting on President Trump's speech in Poland.
No, I thought it was very much like Reagan's 1982 speech at Westminster, which is one of his best speeches. Trump is describing in a way almost no American president has since Franklin Delano Roosevelt, that this is a war about civilization, that we are in a struggle. And I thought he was particularly courageous in pointing out that not only are we in a struggle with Islamic terrorists, we're also in a struggle with bureaucratic secularists, such as the British court that basically wants to kill Charlie Gard, the little baby that they do not want to allow to go and have any kind of help either at the Vatican or in the United States. So I thought the really remarkable speech covered an extraordinary amount of history, and I think that it's a landmark. I think people will be able to see philosophically a lot better who Donald Trump is from this speech. And I think from the standpoint of the Polish people, it was enormously heartening to have an American president so decisively with them and so openly tough about communism and about Russia.
Great analysis of the president's speech yesterday. You know, he asked some questions in the speech that I think are very defining. He said, do we have the confidence in our values to defend them at any cost? Do we have enough respect for our citizens to protect our borders? Think about that one. In Poland, he said, do we have the desire and the courage to preserve our civilization in the face of those who would subvert and destroy it? Very riveting words. He said, we can have the largest economies and the most lethal weaponry anywhere on earth, but if we do not have strong families and strong values, then we will be weak and we will not survive. Nor, he says, will we survive if we neglect the non-liberal democratic institutions that enforce liberal democratic values, the military and the police. What Trump called for yesterday in Poland is a reinvigoration of a national pride of all peoples. And remember, it's the globalists that want to degrade, mock, and diminish national pride. So these are very opposite views. The enemy of the globalist is a national pride. That's why Obama, the globalist of our time, said he wanted to transform America. What he really meant when he said transform it is change the people in it, bring in outsiders from many other countries, whether through visas, scams, open borders, illegal immigration, refugees, it didn't matter. Get foreigners in, therefore there's no American pride. And if there's no national pride, if there's no Americanism, then it's easier to join a global enterprise. Because you're not living in a country or a system, you're living in space, land. You're living in a continent. The more foreigners you bring in, the less nationalism and American pride matters. And once those from outside the country become 50% plus one, then those that have that pride become further diminished and further mocked as Neanderthals. Now, this is why Corey Stewart almost defeated Ed Gillespie in the Republican primary for governor. Because everybody, when they looked at Stewart's defense of these Confederate statues, everybody looked at it as racism and crazy pot politics. And on the surface, it was. But the bigger picture of what it ignited in those people who rejected Gillespie on June 13th and voted for Stewart, many of them, is because that represented their last vestige of pride in their country. and those who want a globalist agenda where cheap labor rules, American pride is the last thing they want. European, Polish pride, they don't want that. German pride, they don't want that. Hitler and Mussolini rose to power on national pride because it was so diminished. That's what happens. That's fueling Putin right now. So there's a balance there, no doubt. But this is without any question the objective of the Wall Street gangster, bankster, New York, Silicon Valley globalist crowd is to mock, diminish, and belittle American pride in any way that they can. Because American pride means higher wages. Globalism means the slave trade network rules, wages go down, and the elites make more money. You know, the interesting thing about the whole globalist movement is that it's not about the people in the globe, it's about the elites that want the power over everything and they don't want governments to get in their way. But that is the New World Order. The New World Order is no U.S. pride. And it starts with nationalism, Americanism, and then it goes down to the pride of the American worker. I know I drive you nuts when I tie this back to following the greenback, but that's what this whole thing is about. When you follow the money, you will find the answer at the end of the rainbow. You just follow the money. And where does the money lead? It leads right back to the globalist slave trade network, whose origins operate in the United States on Wall Street, in the banks, the 5 big banks who control 95% of the entire U.S. credit, Silicon Valley. I mean, you look at this ridiculous H-1B visa plan and this thing we talked about the other day, OPT, where companies are incented with tax incentive to hire foreign graduates over our own kids in our own country. It's the most insane thing you've ever seen. How did it start? Trace it back. Microsoft looking for cheap labor. That's at its embryo. You think those people at Microsoft making millions and millions of dollars think they give a rat's tail about American nationalism? Could care less. Make more money. Things don't work out, they go buy an island. That's what this whole thing traces back to. And what Trump did in Poland, what everybody missed yesterday, is he delivered an address not only for American pride, but the prides of all peoples, whether they be Polish, Italian, German, or Russian. Because that's why we have sovereign countries. I don't want to give up my sovereignty. You don't want to give up your sovereignty. The Greek doesn't want to give up his or her sovereignty. The German doesn't want to give up their sovereignty. But these governments are breaking the will of people's pride in their country. That's part of what the European Union does. Break it down so it doesn't matter. So you're part of a continent, not a country, and part of a global network. That's what all these trade deals do. Just break it down until finally you throw your hands up. And it's fueled by the desire for those in financial power to scour the globe for slave labor. That is the fuel and the money behind it. Anything needs money in order to operate. That's where it comes from. You think these people that run the IMF bank, I mean, I sit in the White House press briefing. I've got my good friend John Gizzi in there from Newsmax asking legitimate questions about the International Monetary Fund, IMF Bank, or the World Bank, or the Import-Export Bank. What do you think these exist for? They exist to expand the rationale of globalization. Import-Export Bank. Why do they exist? To expand the ability of huge companies in the U.S. to expand their globalist enterprise so that it doesn't matter where they operate or where they pay taxes on your tax dollar, subsidizing their international expansion, which has nothing to do with creating a single job in the United States. And then when the companies are successful, they park the money overseas because they don't care. There's no nationalism going on there. There's no American pride in any company that has parked $3 trillion like we have overseas so they don't have to pay United States taxes. They're looking for a globalist economy. And that's what Trump did yesterday. He kicked that in the teeth. And that's what everybody missed. Instead, these imbeciles at CNN tweet out an edited 3-second photo of the First Lady of Poland snubbing Trump, which was a complete lie because they edited it. That's what they're focused on, rather than the significance of what the president said yesterday about a sea change in U.S. policy. Sea change. 180 from Obama.